Hi, I am Gayle of @Gayle Sews, and I designed the Emily dress that is in my Etsy shop, GewelbyGayle Patterns. Now, the Emily dress is a halter top dress, and today I will be cutting another Emily dress in burnt orange. I'm excited because it's fall. My other dress was white. So today I'm going to be assembling my pattern, and then I'm going to be cutting and sewing my dress. Now, two things. When I am assembling my pattern, because it has a little bit of extra on the edge of the paper, I have to cut off that little extra 2/8 of an inch because I need my pattern to line up perfectly. So what I do is I cut the bottom first and I cut along here. And I do that for all the pieces because I need my pattern to sit and fit very neatly. So what I do is I cut the bottom and the side, right side, and then I attach my pattern coming down, and then I go in the middle, and then I go to the right. The second thing is I am generally a size somewhere between a 2 and a 4, so let's call me a 3. And I wear a medium. I can wear a small sometimes. However, my size is a medium generally. The fabric I'm going to use today is similar. It stretches, and so I'm going to make my Emily dress in a small, maybe an extra small. I want it to fit very nicely and look sophisticated. So if it won't fit across my bust, then I will go with the small. Now, I can just go with the small because if I fit it and it seems a little big, then I can always go in 1/2 inch on both sides and maybe the center back, both sides preferably. And for here, I can always take off the excess. So I can trim it down if I want to, but I really wanted to find a size that would fit me perfectly, even though I am a 3 to a 4. And then it depends on the stretch of the fabric as well. All right, so I hope you enjoy this video. Hope you will find it useful. And without further ado, I am going to the cutting of my pattern. Now, as you notice, the pattern is built along the line of symmetry. I don't want to have to assemble an entire front and an entire back. And since the garment is symmetrical, I only cut a half of the front and a half of the back. So I save a lot of time assembling the pattern. So here I fold my fabric, and before I even start cutting, I ensure that my fold was even at the top and the bottom because I want to ensure I'm cutting along my warp and web threads. I do not want to cut on the diagonal. Now it's a little off camera, however, I marked my dart, and after marking my dart, I gave it a little snip, and I mark where the dart starts at the top and where it ends at the bottom. Now I'm doing the same method for the back. I have folded my fabric. I have checked to ensure that my fabric is straight. And now I'm just pinning the pattern down so it doesn't move. Of course, most people use pattern weights. I find pinning it to be a little more secure, especially with these soft fabrics. So again, I cut along the line of symmetry. Or rather, the pattern is along the line of symmetry. I mark my dart, I pin, and I snip. Now the back has a center seam, so that's where that extra 1 inch came from. And so I'm opening it, and then of course I'm going to stitch it because I need my center back seam to lay nice and flat and be open. Now the first thing I attach on the dress is the waistline. It is important that the waistline lines up, so I pin that first, and then whatever is left I pin the bottom and I pin the top. If there's excess at the bottom or excess at the top, I will cut that off, but I am pinning the sides first, the waist. I am not pulling or tugging on my fabric too much. Notice I'm just gently coaxing the fabric into place. I don't want to pull it because I don't want one side to stretch more than the other. Sewing with spandex can get tricky if you pull or agitate the fabric too much. So I'm just letting it fall where with me, and then I'm just going to stitch the two sides together, and I'm going to stitch the center back. Now I'm cutting my neckband, and of course this one is also along the line of symmetry, but this one has two lines of symmetry, and so this is a quarter of the strap. So you will have to fold your fabric downwards for the vertical and across for the horizontal. So when you open it, you have this really long strap. It would have been useless to have to assemble a pattern this long when you could just cut it in quarters. And I have gone with option 2 strap. So here I am just attaching the sides, and I'm attaching the center back, and I will do my first fitting at this point. When I am stitching a stretch fabric, I give it a little tug, just a gentle pull, because I'm not using elastic thread. If I were using elastic thread, that would not be necessary, but I do that so that my thread doesn't break while I'm stitching. Okay, so I have attached both sides of my dress, and I have put in the center seam, and now I am doing my first fitting. So the neckline is just perfect, it's at the right place. This of course has to be cut off, but it also has too much room right here, so I'm going to take it in at the bust line. So small is too big for my bust. My bust is 36, so I'm going to take off an inch here, and I'm going to take off an inch over here, and then I'm going to straighten this all up. Maybe cut off a little piece off of it. I think I might cut it in a little more. Yes, I think I will cut it in a little more. And then I like the fit at the bottom. The back will be low, and the length is good. Okay, so the small fit me pretty good. I have a 40 hip and a 28 waist and a 36 bust, and this is the small. So the small fits me perfectly, depending on the stretch of my fabric, and my fabric stretches to about double the width I fit, and the waist is at the right place, fits perfectly. Now I decided I was not going to make this dress fully lined. The previous white dress that I made, that one was fully lined, but this one I only use a partial lining. The lining, I cut the lining to the waist. Now before I even attach my facing, I laid my fabric, my dress down, and I held it along the back seam and the center front so that I could cut off whatever excess was in the armpits. And I did the same thing for my lining, because my lining was also cut from the same pattern. So once I cut off the excess in the armhole and I neatened the front a little bit, I attached my lining. The lining is, I start pinning it from the center back, and then I attach it going all the way around, and I stitch everything except the part that will be in the neckline. And you can fast forward through this section. I'm just pulling my thread through so that when I am wearing it and the fabric stretches, the thread doesn't break. And so here is my lining attached. Now, what you must always do when you sew anything that is rounded, you have to go into the seam and snip the rounded areas to loosen it so it lays flat when you're wearing it. So here I am just snipping, and I snipped all around it, even the parts that were not exactly rounded, because I want when I turn it over, it lays flat. Now the next thing I'm going to do is understitch the lining. Understitching keeps the lining inside of the garment, so that's what I'm going to do now. And if you know understitching, you know it's about 1/16 of an inch. Or perhaps even 1/8 of an inch. So that's all I'm doing now, and then I'm going to attach my straps. Of course, I am going to attach my strap all the way around except for the center part that will attach to the neckline. So my neckline is about 5 inches or so, I am going to find the center of my neckline, and I just snipped it right there, and I'm going to attach the center line of my strap to the center line of my neck. And like I said, my neck is about 5 inches. I'm going to stitch every part of the strap except for that 5 inches. So 2.5 on the left center and 2.5 on the right center. I'm going to stitch all of that, and I'm going to leave an opening wide enough for the neckline. Now, just now you saw me snip the ends, the corners of my strap, because I want, when I turn it over, there are no bumps in the corner. So I snipped off the excess seam allowance in the corner, but I was very cautious to not snip too close to my thread. Now I am just turning my liner, my neck strap on the right side, and if you have a loop turner, you can do this easily. Because my strap is wide and my fabric stretches, I just use my finger to turn it, and then I use a needle to just ease the corners out without pulling on the fabric to rip it. And here I'm just cutting off that S-wing tip at the top of the neckline. I didn't need it to go around my neck, so I'm just trimming off that excess point. Now I have a little notch there for the center of the neckline, and I'm attaching the center line notch of the strap to the neckline, and I'm just pinning both of the other sides of the strap. It is almost exactly where it needs to be, so that I don't have any excess strap that I need to top stitch. I want all of it to be inside. So now I have attached one side of the strap. I had done it right side to right side, so now one side is attached, and now I'm going to just top stitch the underside, which is the wrong side of the strap. I am making sure that when I fold my fabric under, it is just a smidge, about a 1/8 inch from the previous stitch. That way I can stitch into the same stitch line and have it just fall neatly on the wrong side. So now I'm just going to stitch in the previous stitch line, and so that's what I'm doing now. I have to ensure that I keep the seam open with my fingers. That way I stitch right in the line, and whatever little excess of the strap that was not stitched previously, I just give that a little top stitch. And so that is done. Now we're in the final stretch, and the only thing that's left to do is finish our hemline. Now I am going to do a 5/8 hem. In the pattern it calls for a 1-inch hem. The choice is yours. I decided to go with a 5/8 this time. So now my hemline is done. All I have to do now is iron my dress, and it is ready. Oh, one thing I should not forget, I must always add my GewelbyGayle label. So I have added in my label now, and my dress is officially done. And voila!